21st century self-health care, the embodied woman. Thanks for joining us. Welcome everyone. My name is Vicchi Oleski and I am the host of Live Into 5D, Waking Up Our Nature. Thanks for joining us. And today's guest is Jacquie Keeney, Dr. Jacquie Keeney from Ottawa, Canada. Jacquie, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you, Vicchi. I am tingling and pumped to be here. Yes.
Yeah, I'm feeling it too. Jacquie and I met through an organization from Sonoma. Maybe followers know about Musea, Center of Intentional Creativity. So that's where initially Jacquie and I met. And it was love at first sight. I'll just have to say.
And maybe we met a long time ago too.
Right? Yes, certainly. Jacquie and I, a little while ago, we're talking about menopause and the brain and the gut. And through that conversation, I really felt a need to have you on the podcast because it's a moving target. Menopause is. It was for me. And, now that I'm pretty much through it, looking back at it, I can really say for myself, I was so grateful that something told me to discover yoga. And for me, not only was it a remedy for the moment, the current times that I was riding through, but as I was learning about how it helps the internal organs and the hormones and my brain gut access, I realized that not only was it helping me through the present current time I was living through, but it was going to help me down the road, like into my 60s. Right. I'm going to dive into a little bit of the emotional realms of grief. And I'd love for you to, number one, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you would like us to know about you and your journey. And then let's just dive right into the ideas and the support that you offer your clients while going through menopause. What do you think?
Well, I'd say on the personal side, looking at menopause and perimenopause, I'm right there. I'm right there with my patients, and I do so much women's health work in my naturopathic practice. It's such a great time to be having this conversation, because I'm having lived experiences with some of we can look at it as grief and loss, and sometimes those are personal things that we have going on, let's say through relationships or the external, but then also through this time of life, there are certain hormones and neurotransmitters and sort of defenses, we could look at it that way, that are coming down and coming into a pause state. And so our personal work or traumas or patterns become a little bit more acute during this time of life. So I know I said I was going to share personally, so I've got the timing of my life. I'm looking at applying all these things that I've been teaching and talking some of my patients through for many years now. And so it's just, there's a lot of busyness there, and I love it. And
you're transversing through
my own personal territory of perimenopause.
Okay.
And prior to, I would support women through this time without having that firsthand knowledge. So it's really interesting. So yes, I'm in I'm in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, which is unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. And Ottawa is the capital of Canada, and it's right on a really big river. And there are lots of waterways. And it's a beautiful place to live and practice. It gets really cold in the winter. It's hot right now in the summer. And I work with a huge range of people, but I have a special love and passion um, for women's health and sisterhood, and I would say a way of life that has flow and collaboration and is not so hard driven by some aspects that we might feel in the business world or in that
Right.
go 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 lifestyle. I'm trying to offer a different way, and I think in perimenopause and menopause, when some of those hormones start to go down and we can feel some of our stresses a little bit more, because anxiety and depression, grief of either current or past traumas, as those come up, the pushing through, we don't necessarily have the same, I'll say, maybe energy for or interest in it. There is a cocooning time or a downflow, and our brain is actually going into a quiet space. Um, so it's a
Quiet,
really
quiet
interesting.
as in the pause, the silence, the
Mhm.
the louder, more extraneous noise starts to kind of lower. Is that how you're kind of talking about it?
I think some of the I'm thinking more internally as we start to move towards menopause and that second stage of perimenopause. Peri is that time, before your periods actually stop. First progesterone goes down and we can feel a little bit more anxious or a little bit it can be harder to have a good night's sleep because it's one of our sleep hormones. And then in the later stages, when estrogen starts to go down, we'll have, let's say, brain fog would be one common thing that people would talk about. Or maybe memory isn't quite the same as it was because our brain actually, some of the matter in our brain decreases because it is going into this quiet period of rewiring. And
Um,
every woman will feel that differently. And so on the negative, we might say, oh, my memory's not good, or I can't focus the same way, or I'm more tired, or I'm more anxious. But in the background, our our brain is actually in a process of letting go of old neuronal patterns of old ways of doing and getting ready for this new brain that we're going to take forward for the rest of our life. And so I don't really know how to answer like are we quieting or not? I think it's a time that can be full of turbulence in some ways, but it's also a time where there is a stillness if we want to look at sort of the brain fog or memory decrease. There can be
that's
a bit of stillness there too.
that is so powerful for I know when we were talking earlier, but that really hit me like that's a very powerful point to bring up and remind folks,
Mhm.
women, that this is a time of rewiring. We
Mhm.
talk about it. We don't have to go into the tight details of what that all means. But I don't think that enough of that gets spoken, that it is a sense of pausing, timing out, quieting, slowing down, because there is a lot of internal things going on, and that something anew is transforming.
Yes.
Earlier talked about and this is not going off script, but you were talking about how you and your husband went and bought a canoe, a refurbished canoe.
Mhm.
And that part of the story about that you felt the life force in the canoe. Would you tell us a little bit about that? Because again, I'm very aware of, it's part of my practice that I help people with, is resparking that life force, that chi,
Mm,
igniting that light within. I think menopause is a great moment for that to happen.
mhm.
The story here, would you tell us a little bit of that story?
Would love to. It's unfolding as we speak. We just got the canoe yesterday. Part of what I'm excited about at this time in this perimenopausal time in my life is really looking at my pace and saying I want to make a change. I don't want to be in the bustle. And some people might decide to do that when they're 25 or 30 and opt out. But I was somebody who, I worked really hard and busy raising a family. And so this summer I was like, I need to just really embrace the space I need and get back into nature. And so we have been looking for a canoe in our minds and talking about it. And
Mhm.
I felt this draw to get online a few days ago, and I was on Facebook Marketplace, and this one canoe jumped out at me. I just said, "Oh, let's go check out that one." It was the only person we contacted. And we ended up in the driveway of this older gentleman that had this beloved canoe. And it was a cedar strip canoe of a really traditional, kind of well known Canadian like boat framer.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just beautiful, and he had had this canoe for 30 years, and he and his wife had paddled all over the place, all throughout Canada, and he was ready to part with it and hand it on. And we ended up purchasing it, but we spent time with this man. We spent 2 or 3 hours with him. He actually put it on the roof of his vehicle and drove us down to part of the river and put it in the water with his personal paddles that he had made to his body size, and I had his his wife's paddle. And my husband and I took it for a little spin and back, and got back to his house, and we chatted a little bit more about the water and about nature. And we got in the car on our way home, and I really felt like I had experienced something special. We talked about the difference between getting a canoe in this way where something is handed down. We've got this is like this lineage. This canoe is alive. Um, as opposed to if you buy something in a store, we'd just be picking up a canoe, and it would be exciting for its potential. But I actually feel like I have a grandfather now, this grandfather canoe, this beingness that is going to, protect us in our upcoming journeys. And we're heading out Friday into the back country.
So great. I
Mm-hmm.
love this story because flow, water,
Mm-hmm.
is such a part of our condition as women.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really flow. The story of him refurbishing it again adds another element of, stripping away, but then also adding and caring and loving
So much
through,
love. There's so much love in this canoe. Like when you touch the wood, you just it's sacred.
right?
And the stranger passed on sacred love. Um,
Right.
this object
Right.
to our family. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you were describing it, and just before we went live, you had said that it feels like this is has elongated your summer a little bit more. And I think that that is powerful. I bring this up because I think there's so much symbology in life, in the simplicity. And again, I think menopause, if we can self-soothe, we can catch these moments and have them elongate our lives a lot more, instead of being uncomfortable. And I'm not dissing the uncomfortableness. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's real.
Yeah.
And right, it's real. And some of the stuff that you and I talked about and are talking about helps us to go through it in a more graceful way, uh, and a more responsive way. That's why I like this story so much, that it offers like another perspective of, buying from a store. Here you have this whole story with this, and you
Mm-hmm.
and your husband are picking it up and, gonna like make these new memories. I think menopause is very much like that.
Mm-hmm.
Reframing menopause. I like to use the word metta-pause, METTA.
Mm.
It's a word about loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Sanskrit word, so it's like more about, you know, going through menopause in a loving, kind way.
Yes, with ourselves and with others. And I have found, I have been experiencing some of, some changes with my brain. I've always been super just so intellectually driven as well as like heart driven. But I noticed that as my brain is a little bit more quiet these days, I feel the surge in my heart. Um, Coming up and coming forward. And with that, there can be some pain and some grief and some big love. Um, and there's an expansion I find as well. There's a lot of feelings. We've got a lot of stuff going on in our world right now and in our communities, outside of the personal. But I love the
Yeah.
meta pause. Mm-hmm.
So your brain is quieting, getting a little quieter. So there's a little bit more stillness. And you're talking about, your heart. Is that like an opening? Do you feel the excitement, or is it more anxiety? Like, we hear all sorts of stories, right, about what women go through menopause. And is it more of a heart opening feeling for you?
I'm most often, I think it can be all over the place because I think it's just like I always think as a, naturopathic doctor, I'm thinking of the biochemistry while I'm going through it energetically and, emotionally. And there's a whole range, there's a whole flux. But I think the biggest thing or the where I visit most often is I feel like there's an expansion and I feel like there is something or someone, the new self that is birthing. It's like a potency. And I feel that coming up because I am thinking about what am I letting go of from my youth? What patterns am I sort of done with? And also, yeah, I do have less time, on this planet. So what am I going to do or who am I going to be? What archetype um, am I birthing? Like my midlife self is coming forward. So it it feels a little bit like a bursting or an expansion that's contained right now because I'm not quite ready to have her come fully out.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds to me a little bit of the work that you and I study with intentional creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this creative act that's going on,
Yeah.
and it, in listening to you describe it, is like you have enough living, and also your professional knowledge is pointing you to be more intentional about how are you going to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit, Jacquie. Like, what do you tell clients that are women that, specifically clients, women who are feeling like they're coming out of their skin?
Mm.
Because that is, like the stuff that you and I are talking about is juicy, wonderful, not always easy to go through, but manageable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are not feeling all fluffy and soft and
Mm-hmm.
cuddly through this, what do you tell your clients that are really having a rough time? Like, what type of suggestions do you offer women?
Mm. Hmm. We do a lot of different stuff, at least in my office. So I do practice Chinese medicine, in addition to doing holistic nutrition and some herbal medicines and sometimes supplementation. So diverse and it's individualized. But I commonly see women will come in and they'll talk about um, irritability. There's this, again, I experience it because I'm trying to channel it, and I paint and I'm actively thinking about who I'm birthing, but I could see how that energy, if it wasn't being put into a channel or a canal to go somewhere, very disruptive. And it's a time where women, I notice with some of that irritability, uh, they're starting to put voice to these things that have been bothering them for a while that just feel potent.
Mhm.
So we talk about getting clear on what they, what space they need. So that's one really big thing. Is I find a lot of women that I work with, they need extra space in their life, and to be able to tell a partner or tell friends, I need that time alone. Or if they have kids in the house, how are they going to get that? So I think that's on sort of maybe the lifestyle piece, is a lot of people want time alone, who aren't getting enough. And then some people who are going through this time, maybe alone, maybe they don't have a partner, or maybe they, don't have kids, or kids might have, left the coop, is not feeling crazy for going through this change, or perceiving yeah, anxiety and all the different feels, and they need to connect with other women. So we kind of identify,
Mhm.
are you feeling alone, and you need to connect because there are so many other women who are going through this. You are not kooky, and your brain will come back online in this new state, and with new perspectives, and your sleep will get better, and the hot flashes will reduce, and there are things that we can do for all the different symptoms that come, be it vaginal dryness or joint pain, or so many
Mhm.
different things that women can experience. But I see often wanting to make sure that they know what they want to change. I think women inherently seem to know that there's this change afoot, and that they want to eat differently, and they want to be different, but it's confusing to know what steps to take. And for a lot of women, I'll start with creating that space or connection, depending on where they are.
Mhm.
And we talk about trying to get good sleep and what we're going to do for stress hormones. So, stress hormones will steal some of the potency and balance from our female sex hormones. And especially when the ovaries are shutting down in their production of hormones, we're going to rely on the thyroid and the adrenal gland to come up and start to we're going to rely on those two glands more. And if we are heading into this phase or in the thick of phase or even post-menopause in the first few years, and we sort of haven't taken a look at some of the things that stress us out, these backup systems of our thyroid and our adrenal that then become more figural, women can feel a little bit more rough. So we do talk about stress, and that's all sorts of things. What do our organ systems need? Oftentimes, women need a lot more minerals than they think, because we've seen, minerals go down in our soil. So even if you eat a lot of veggies, sometimes they need some special focus. Acupuncture. I'm doing a lot of acupuncture these days because we can tailor that. If someone's coming in and they're feeling the grief and the loss, can be loss again of what's going on in their life with a relationship, because this is a time where women, this decade from like 45 to 55 is a decade where most women, if they are going to go through, suicidality, that's where we have women committing suicide. We've got a lot of mental health going on in this decade, more than in the teen years. This is a time where sometimes there's a relationship change. This is a time where kids are graduating from high school or college and they're moving at, like, there's a lot going on. And so I do some talk with everyone where we just honor the grief.
Right.
And then I'm often doing acupuncture or some homeopathy, the more energetic modalities.
Wow, I'm hearing a lot of, Jacquie, thank you. I'm hearing a lot of like easy and more simple but refined ways. You're describing like something that all women will go through. And that there's things that we can naturally use to take care of something that's going to happen, so we can begin to see that it's, down the road, like maybe 5 or 4 years, we're approaching that time of our lives. And what I hear is sleep is really important. Nutrition is really important.
And tailored nutrition. There are actually certain things that I will support women to get in this time. I mean, we really are, our brain really needs those omega-3 oils, polyphenols. It's a certain compound in those richly colored foods, like the really dark purples and the dark greens. Those polyphenols in those foods actually get up into our brain and they're antioxidants there. Trying to figure out ways to reduce stress during the day so that our sleep can be better at night. A lot of times we're thinking about, okay, my nighttime routine, let me get off my phone, take maybe some magnesium and this and that. But what goes on during the day is going to impact the cycling of the hormones as we head into the evening. And that's one of the times where, that's when our brain detoxifies itself actually as well. We sleep. And I think everyone can say we have more emotional resilience if we have a good night's sleep. So that's another one that I am working on with a lot of my patients. I know it sounds super basic, but it can take some time to figure out the missing link in your sleep. For some women, minerals make a really big difference. For other women, it's what are we doing with daytime stress? Can I slow down more? There are a lot of women who aren't actually able to find time to exercise or exercise in a way that's comfortable for them because maybe their body has changed, maybe there's certain joint pain, maybe it's just a time that's really loaded for women because they might be taking care of older parents, they might be taking care of children, they might be taking care of friends who are ill. It is hard to carve out that time, but it's so important. So yeah, those really fundamental things. It's rare that I have someone who comes in my office who is like, actively decreasing the pace of their life while also, finding a way to exercise and sleep well and eat the polyphenols and drink enough water. But there's usually one of those basic things that's not being covered. And I always start there before I get into something detailed about, oh, should we look at, could be red clover or black cohosh or maca or these other more specific hormone supports. While those are all amazing, and I use a lot of different antioxidants through foods, those really basic things, as boring as they might sound, make a really big difference to our nervous system, which is going through a really changeable, chaotic time.
Yeah, I can definitely attribute some of my ease through red clover. That was huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other overarching suggestion that I hear you bringing into the conversation is the big ask,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like ask for what you need. If you're feeling irritable, ask for more space. Or if
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling more alone and like you need a little bit of feedback, ask for more time with your family or your friends if you're single and, single and living solo. So I
Mm-hmm.
really hear that the ask is a huge piece that um, most women, I think, are a little challenged to ask for their needs to get met.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's
And it's changeable. That's the thing, Vicki, is we can, at one day we need some time alone, and then the next moment we need to be in community to really,
Yeah.
feel feel validated through
Yeah.
all of the different things that are coming through, and that if we could get on board with each other, that it's going to sway that.
Oh, I think we just lost you for a sec. We're going to see if you can come back on.
Mhm.
There you are. What were you saying there? The thing got a little stuck.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
I was just saying it's changeable, and that some days, we might need space, and then the next day we need that community and connection, and that it's going to waver, and not to pigeonhole ourselves or each other, of being a certain way through this, because we've got different things that are coursing through our system hormonally and neurologically, and this sorting, it's this sorting through, like, so I just see it over and over that on the physical level the body is changing, and it's letting go of a certain chapter in our life, and then we're ushering in a new chapter, but that's happening, I think, spiritually as well. And my
Yeah.
biggest
You.
hope is that women feel the potential of, I love the term midlife awakening. What
Mhm.
is awakening in you? What is something that you can take forward in this time?
I
Mhm,
love it. It is for me personally, it was one of the biggest openings of my life. Menopause. It really was. And it did last a good 10 to 12 years. Um, but it was quite the awakening for me. Um, early on, I lost my mother. And as sad as that was, and believe me, my mom and I were very close. I would even consider us soulmates. I felt a freedom that I was surprised that I felt. And
mhm,
I attribute to that there were a combination of doing some pre-menopause work on my physical and emotional, spiritual body, and then that happening, I felt like it was very, very helpful that I had a little bit of understanding, not intellectual though. It's one of the points that I'd like to just kind of like remind our listeners and watchers is that this isn't an emotion, an intellectual process. This is really,
Mine's going quiet for a bit anyway.
it's really an embodiment of creativity and intentionality and movement, and know that emotions and hormones are basically one and the same. They're going to let you move through terrains that navigate the depths of our of aliveness and death.
Mm-hmm.
you know um we're gonna kind of bring it to an end. Jackie, what would your most potent, as a doctor and also a professional woman and a mother and a wife and a creative, thank you so much, what's your what would your magic potion be to send us off in a better direction?
I would love to be surrounded by women who are dreaming their next dream. I feel like there's some kind of social programming, the overculture that, it values the younger cycling woman,
Mhm.
and that the menopause is almost like the beginning of the end, but it's in the middle. And there's this whole other part to be written that
Mm.
is not just this, steady decline. Sure, in some ways, every day we're closer to the end, but I would love to hear what dream people are dreaming, while we can support each other with, there are a lot of losses. This is the older you are on the planet, the more you're going to experience, that it is not too late to free yourself of something or to move towards, something new. When you said
Beautifully
freedom,
said.
that's so it is so true. As we get older, I think we care less about certain things that held us back, and while the body transitions, I think the spirit is moving into more freedom. And I think it matters. I think the dreams that, midlife and older women are dreaming, I
Mhm.
think we need that. Like, we need to hear that, and I certainly value it. I find it just, yeah, so fascinating, when somebody opens up and shares what is really going on deep inside and what they're really stewing stewing on inside their being. Mhm.
Beautifully said. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that.
Mhm.
That's like, I think, a heart's desire for me too, is to really share the next dream. And
Mhm.
to, one of the things I heard as you were talking is like, when we wake up in the morning, to wake up and to know that we can dream a new dream for each day, you
Mhm.
know. So
Mhm.
thank you so much, Jackie. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, the feeling's mutual, and yeah, I welcome anyone to reach out to me. Even though I'm up in Canada, you probably have some people down in the States, but I think, um, the ability to just collaborate and talk and also value each other. Again, maybe the overculture isn't valuing, the older woman as much, but gosh, I value you. And,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
all of us who are having the gift to live on. Not everyone makes it to
It's
this
true.
earth. Mhm.
Absolutely. We're going to have your info in the description below the video. So please, everyone and anyone, I want to hear from you. Jackie wants to hear from you. Let us know what your dream is about, how we can support you, and get in touch with Jackie. And thanks so much for tuning in today. Much love. Jackie, thank you, love. Mwah.